Good morning. It's 10:15 a.m. on Friday, March 31st, 2023. I call this meeting of the Commissioners Court of Wichita County to order. This is a special session. No action will be taken on any items today. With that, we're going to skip what we have as item number 1 on the agenda temporarily and move to item number 2, which is review and discuss regular bills. And the email should have come in at 3:34 on Wednesday afternoon from Margaret.
Corey, I've got a question for you. I guess you're in, or Mike, y'all are both here on Cheryl's behalf, but I saw a itemized tax statement on our revenue coming in for a claim that was on the agenda, and the district clerk's office receives a fee when on those properties that are sold off. You know, you see them listed on the agenda for us to approve. Where does that fee go? Is it just a general fund, or is it a split
For
fee?
the tax sales?
District clerk. Mhm.
They would get a court cost fee out off of there to pay for the court costs that are originated from the case itself. And then any of the excess would go into the registry account, and it has to stay in the registry account for like 2 years, and then they have to file an appeal or whatever to kind of get the money. It just sits
Well,
there
no,
for-
I'm going the next step after that. So let's say all that's resolved and the entity sells and the money's split out accordingly.
Mhm.
The fee is paid that's due the county district clerk. And that fee, let's just say it's $1,500.
Mhm.
After the district clerk receives it, where does that fee go to?
I mean, it would just kind
That
of.
fine?
The fine? Well,
Or is it?
I mean, we're
It's
talking-
court fees,
Court.
specifically court fees.
yeah, the court costs themselves goes, that's the first thing that goes to the case is the court costs. And the court costs just pay the actual costs that are associated with the type of filing, whatever, and depending on what that is. And then, like I said, it goes into the registry, and it kind of depends on what the judge says at the end of all this and wherever it goes. But if it comes back to county revenue, it's most likely going into the general fund. Just kind of depends on the whole outcome of the case.
And all the monies that typically flow that way, other than the escrow monies that you're talking about initially, are those fees just general fund fees and fines? A fine paid in the district clerk's office, do you know anything other happens to it than the fact that it's a general fund deposit?
Well, I mean, we seem to be talking about a couple of different things, because if we're talking fines could be on, multiple different levels.
Right.
And if it's a fine for like a criminal case or whatever, then it's likely those fines are split between the road and bridge. And so it's
In the
split-
district clerk's office, out of her office?
Yes, when they collect the fines
Okay.
or whatever, they send it to the treasurer and it's recorded to the road and bridge account, split
Okay.
4 ways, depending on what their collections are for that specific time period.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about. Okay.
There's a bill on here for a competency evaluation, but it doesn't say which elected official it's tied to, so I was just curious. If there's anybody new.
And I think Will's not here, I guess, but I think there's a very real not investigation, but to understand better whether we can do those here maybe and expedite some of what is a backlog to us in the near future maybe
Like in the LEC,
with mental health and.
you'd bring, what would you bring, Helen Farabee in? Or?
No, I think that we're going to elevate ourselves to ability to.
So Judge Kennedy and other judges, Core Health, law enforcement, everyone is in the early stages of putting together something. To answer your question, Commissioner Mueller, it could be our own personnel, it could be Core Health, just as part of their medical services, adding that to it in conjunction with Helen Farabee. There's about as many different ways to do it as there are
Right.
people to think of ways to do it. But yeah, it's early stages, but I think everyone is excited at the potential of being able to do that and not rely on state hospital slots.
Would expedite it a lot, I would assume.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if that's the Core Health, it'll be another add-on to their contract.
It would.
They're quite a contract already.
It is. But
Just
healthcare is expensive.
Just this much, though, Mickey. Just a little
add on a
bit.
little bit more.
Yeah.
All right. Do y'all have a chance to look at everything?
We wish they were less.
We have a quick question, kind of deals with bills. As far as bills and our skid steers, Jeff, have you heard anything from Columbia?
Yes, they're still saying that they feel like that we're a late April, early May delivery.
Okay. He had originally told me March, that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
March is get up pretty fast.
Yeah.
I think today's it. Okay. Y'all are good. All right, we will move on to item number 3, discussions on precinct number 5 funds for future equipment needs.
And Mike, thank you very much for sending that update. We're setting today on just over $500,000, 550 roughly, and just in round numbers. And so we have an expenditure coming, which is our distributor, which has, the chassis has been delivered to the body company at Nair, and they are the body is built, they are mounting that, and they feel like that it could be in our possession by mid-April. So that's going to
Put us in business.
you put us in business big time, and we had not thought that would occur so quickly.
We were
but
thinking fall.
yeah, we really were, and every time I talked to Bruckner's, I felt like it would be fall or next year, fall maybe, but it finally rolled off the line, and so that's going to chew up about $350,000 of this balance, and so with that remaining couple of $100,000 in there, I wanted the direction from the group as to investigating. I've gotten quotes on our timber project, the cutting of those limbs as well as the grinding of those. Thanks to Judge Johnson, we've been successful in the grant award of $20,000 towards that endeavor. But we're looking at about a $240,000 overall expense to dive knee deep into the project. And so I just wondered about everyone's feelings in that direction versus what other things they would like to consider, whether it be 15-yard dump truck. Everything that we're going to do is going to take a long time, and this money wouldn't be spent until 24, actually.
How does Precinct 5 get funded?
Equally from all four, but we've stopped that, Jim. This is residual funds, and so now if Corey and Mike have expenditures, it's gonna be pulled equally from the four of us. Precinct 5 account, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but it will go away at some point after this balance is resolved, right?
That was my understanding.
Mine too.
With the equipment, what are you gonna, the equipment that's in there, what are you gonna do with it?
It all goes to precinct 4. No,
Okay.
no, the equipment, it remains the same. Everything.
We'll leave it in there.
There's still a precinct 5. We just don't have a checking account for precinct 5. And so all precinct 5 bills, a quarter comes out of me and you and you. and-
Yeah.
I just didn't wanna, I don't wanna ever take, I don't wanna lose precinct 5.
No,
Being
no,
able to share that
it's
equipment.
just easier on them bookkeeping wise to have the 4 accounts and treat 5 or joint purchases, as you will, equally amongst us 4 instead of having to, we were all first of the year, Jim, always giving $100,000 each to the account, and they felt it would be easier not to do that, so.
Same program, just different way to fund it.
Different way to fund it, and all, really, we won't ever notice a difference, other than our discussions. We had budgeted, this distributor, in the precinct 5 budget for this year, and we'll still create a precinct 5 budget, but that'll kind of help me know, because, anymore, you can't just go get something. And so everything is a drawn out process, and even getting the John Deere tractor, which Barry is a 6120, to handle that saw. That arm has a knuckle on it that allows you to swivel, but also quick connect feature. So if we wanted to buy a shredder at some point, drop the saw and pick up the shredder, you could mow, real steep, deep ditch banks and
But
things.
it'll be counterweighted.
It's counterweighted, yes, and it's something that doesn't easily come off there, so
Yeah.
that's why I thought its own unit needed to be, and that way, it's just dedicated for that purpose. The skid steer precinct 5 already owns, we've upgraded, and that number I'm talking about, $250,000 roughly for this equipment, does not take into account the skid steer, but we already owned a skid steer. We're just upgrading skid steers for a cost of about $5,000, which will come out, I guess, pretty quickly. We are expecting delivery pretty quick.
So you're
But
gonna use the grapple bucket on the skid steer to handle the stuff, is that the
Yes.
plan?
And I have not ordered, which would be advantageous to us before we took possession of the skid steer, and I think Mickey wanted to even consider his. We did put the safety doors on the front of them, and then secondly, the oil cooler, the ramped up oil cooler. It is a recommended brand to help keep that oil. It's not going to be something that's foolproof. I mean, a operator still has to watch that, because you can continuously operate and get that thing too hot still, but
Especially in July,
yes.
August, yeah.
And so, but it is essential to run that type of mulcher on the front of it. So, but I think it might be beneficial to us to go ahead and rig the skid steer before we get it, while they've got it in the shop, to put the extra pump on it. And that's about a $9,000 expenditure on the hydraulic oil cooler.
From a bookkeeping perspective, this is going to be incumbent on each of y'all to make sure that if we know we've got a big charge coming up and precinct 5 is gone, you have to know that money is essentially encumbered out of
Yeah.
y'all ahead of time.
And I don't know how y'all would do that, you really wouldn't, I guess, until the charge actually hits, right? Or would you actually encumber our funds?
I mean, we would probably budget for it, I imagine, best we could,
Okay.
through transfers or.
Would you put a line in all the precinct budgets for it, or?
Well, it would be similar to a regular budget transfer. You would just budget for it and then transfer it to 5, if that's what ends up happening. I'm not saying for sure that's what we're doing.
Right.
I do think then probably makes sense that before we get too deep into budget season, for
Figure out how-
the court to figure out what the equipment needs are gonna be next year.
So
Well,
we-
really, the equipment needs, Jim, we're talking about are gonna be 25 equipment needs. 24 equipment needs, if we don't do them right now, they're, can't get it.
So we're gonna have a budget for precinct 5, we're just not gonna fund it, we're gonna fund it as
That's
needed.
right, we're funding it as needed, so when we will pay attention a lot, because of the way we used to fund 5, automatic, we'll just need to be aware of, that's a, basically, and there are some years, and we have done no transactions some years, but,
So we will know what our, like if our big equipment needs, and we'll budget those going in. The only thing that's gonna really show up would be a repair or
yes.
something that
Yeah.
shows up that we did. We'd have a pretty good idea what that might be,
Yeah.
so.
And those are kind of incidental to the revenue stream,
Yeah.
really.
all right.
And, but I just wanted to kind of see if y'all wanted to, that is a good project. I think we can all use that. We all know that we could use that.
Yeah,
But-
Today. 'cause
Yeah.
it's Friday.
Yeah. And secondly, I mean, if we wanted to, do another 15-yard, but, we are certainly in good shape as far as our trucks, our road tractors, and, trailers are going now, we're 4 deep, we need to trade somehow, get Mickey's involved and kick that to 5 and take him out of that business
What's our
because
rotation on those, 3 years or?
it has been 3 years, but because Barry, it took, our hours were low and our mileage was okay, we skipped that last, we should have traded, but just haven't because we're so,
I know a couple of guys with some motor graders that are in that same.
yeah, I know too.
I know one of them real well. so. Yeah.
So, and that's the problem, just what Barry's speaking of, Jim, even though we've got adequately used, I wouldn't say underused, but adequately used motor graders that are 5 years of age, now we're both fixing to have to undergo major surgery that shouldn't be the case.
Is this the theft problem?
No,
Well,
it's
it was-
engine, DEF is a problem.
That is a problem,
But
but this,
This is either a cracked head or something's amiss
I think it's
internally in
shades
the.
motor.
Oh, yeah.
see, I've been in a 3-year rotation, and it worked great, because you never had to deal with tires, you were always under warranty, which
Yeah.
is huge.
Huge.
nowadays. And we got out of sync during the COVID deal and missed it, and now we're paying the price.
Well, we couldn't even order them for their,
Yeah, it was that, and I mean, but at the time, we were running a motor grader for like less than $10 an hour, is what our actual cost was, because we were buying that government discount, rolling them out, selling private treating, it just worked like.
yeah, we get a large utility discount on those and then we sell them at market price and capture that back. And so that benefit that Barry's talking about paid dividends to us.
Completely out of sync, and it's on us now, so.
And just like a truck, what used to be on the yard, and I'd call and say, hey, tell me what you got in this, that's no more. And our problem is the window even closes. So they say, hey, we've met our quota, so we've got to wait till next year to even order. So, which is, just blows my mind, but it occurs, so. But if y'all want time to think on that, it's just, I need to put together, I've got the quote in totality on the, all things needed to take us out on the side of the road and trim the brush and grind it in place. So that is put together, but if we wanted or thought it was a different direction, I need to put something together. But we're still in the,
But you think that would essentially zero out?
it will zero us out.
And the challenge, one of the challenges in that is that we can't hire the help anymore.
No.
We just,
no.
we can't get them.
What I used to use as a crew is just become 45 days out, 60 days out to get. Well, you know, we need it when we need it.
Like a year ago, work for precinct 2.
Something else while we're on 5 right now that I don't have, Barry, and you have some key pieces too, Mickey, I think as well. What Lee Burgoyne does not keep, and for us, is that we're operating some road and bridge towers, not necessarily towers we own, but the equipment we do. Either Brendan and us have that repeater situation set up on radios, and we're not covering that stuff. And even some of Lee's were, because of the nature of the insurance, every 10 years before it completely gets a thorough reevaluation. Every 4 years, the property, new property and existing property, is just updated for any additions. But the site improvements for any properties are not touched unless every 10 years. It's our obligation to turn those in. So we're identifying, and Nancy and I and Deb have talked to them multiple times, but we're identifying some of those. Some may not be worthy of putting on there, because bear in mind, Barry,
You talking about insurance, on the insurance deal?
on our, we don't even show them, we don't show them listed at all. Maybe they don't need to be. But in the instance, I don't even have a good sheet of our total equipment out there. Outside of EMS, only belonging or working for Road and Bridge,
We
really.
just got one, don't we? One
Well,
repeater.
don't you have one at the post office and on Johnson Road?
No, it's on Johnson Road. The water tower looked at it this week.
On Johnson,
There's
the
always
one at the
a-
post, there's not one any
Well, I know
longer.
there's not one, because I always go by and check the air conditioner in the,
Right.
in the repeater house.
Yeah.
That thing's been sitting there running for like 5 years straight.
Yeah.
And,
They've never turned it off.
no, don't, no. It's, so you drive by and check it every once in a while, make sure it's still going, because heat is not your friend. But really, all we're talking about is a repeater. We've got our antenna on the water tower, and we got the coax that goes to it. And just about all those radios that are on that system are hand-me-down stuff that Lee's had.
So if Johnson Road blows completely away
Right,
with the
yes.
tornado, but you, to put it, Johnson Road back would cost you, how much money would you need?
Well, it's a $3,500 house. The repeater, when we put it in, was, gosh, I think less than $10,000, and that was it was right after I came on this court. We were using World War II stuff before then, and we upgraded it, and then I think nearly all the radios are hand-me-down.
Yeah, the radios are covered.
Yeah.
We're covered there. It's just the stations that we repeat off.
But we probably do need a value on that.
But
too,
do you-
because we're talking, because replacement cost is what gets you. I mean, we did it worth the money when we did it, but to replace it, you know, might be.
Is there a
$50,000.
tower at your yard?
No tower. just-
No radio tower of any sort?
No.
Mickey, do you have a radio tower at your, and is it working as a repeater for our radio system?
I don't think so.
And you think I'm paying for this out of precinct 5?
No, I'm thinking that I need to make sure Monday,
We're talking about property insurance on Monday. I just
and
wanted
so
to make sure you're-
We're
did.
gonna add that.
Yeah, I've gotten Lee's updated stuff, which was way needed catching up, but this precinct 5, or we treat it as precinct 5 because if something went out, that's how we're going to pay to fix it at Mickey's Tower and Barry's
The
Tower.
location is kind of included in the interlocal agreement with City of Iowa Park. In fact, the city manager.
They don't charge us anything.
Yeah, last week, and, you know, that's still.
But the bottom line is, on that kind of stuff, Barry, $75,000 before we collect a penny.
Yeah, I don't know what.
We never go over that.
And we are, and I think it is on Monday's agenda, we're gonna be
Yeah.
talking about the insurance.
But it is something we need to at least think about, but I don't know what that replacement repeater would be. It wasn't that big a deal when we put it in, but everything's, you know, it's got past us now, so.
I'll put that equipment on the agenda then as quoted or as we're proposing and see, is that the thing to do, Judge?
I'll go pull, I may have a file when we put that in, it's got all that information on it, I'm not sure, but.
I'm talking about the $250,000.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then, yeah, anything you've got on that to help me, and then you want to jump to that other item? I mean, that's really basically what I had about, I just wanted
The
your.
pressure bottles?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, I'll get, yeah. All right, then we'll move on to item number 4, which is discussions on purchasing gas pressure bottles instead of renting and leasing for all road precincts, maintenance, LEC, et cetera.
so let me tell you, that is a, mafia like nobody's business. They,
Yes,
just try to Google where to buy an oxygen bottle at, and you will not get anything. But I went through my brother-in-law, which is at a huge refinery in California in Los Angeles, and they reached out to the refinery vendor, and so a fellow by the name of Ben Anderson, which is in that business, has been in contact with me. The manufacturer this week is down, what they consider a spring break period, he said the quotes are only, at this point in time, 14-day worthy quotes, but he can tell me that very closely, oxygen, that how we know and use an oxygen bottle,
The big one.
and the acetylene bottles are going to be in the $350 range.
That's a bargain.
So,
If you can get them for that right now.
now, he's assuming that we don't have any conflict with turning in our purchased bottle and using their rented bottle.
Yeah.
He's just assuming that we shouldn't have that conflict, but is there anything with air gas? We're gonna need to go to one vendor is what we need to do, so that one person, and we don't have them scattered out all over the county.
We need to probably reach out to all of our local and get prices from them on refills and make sure that we're exchanging. We just need the stats from the new bottles and see if they will change them. If they won't, that's not a big deal, as long as their refill turnaround's usually only like three days or something. Usually you'd have a spare on hand where you don't have to be without one. But it would be much cheaper for this bill I'm looking at right now for mine, it's $400 bill for leasing bottles, and that's why I was holding off on paying it, because I wanted to.
Yeah, I got the same thing, I got like a $900 bill here on my personal bottles, and
So
we're gonna have to.
I think we definitely we just need to get the stats on it and make sure.
But-
See if they'll swap them, if they won't, then we'll just order extras and.
So Ricky and Lee and I guess there'd be anybody else I'm forgetting?
Yeah, we got some of the maintenance, we got them in all precincts.
LEC, have we?
I don't think so. LEC's totally against cut torches.
But they might, they may use oxygen, but it's probably medical grade.
Medical grade, I'm thinking. I don't think they've got any in the maintenance shop or anything.
I can find out.
Yeah.
That's in the mower shop that they operate. You don't have-
Don't know.
But we do need to centralize, because I'm with one group, Barry's with one group. And this way, at least we know where our bottles are branded and what our inventory is, because it's quickly, you go to, I retire and somebody else comes, whatever the case, nobody remembers, and if we don't have it sheeted correctly. And
I would just then keep our own and keep them labeled and painted with our own name on it. Instead of swapping it out. Huh?
There's some merit in that.
I keep in my own personal.
But you
home.
take them down and have them filled and bring them back then?
Yeah, that's what I do on mine at home. I have enough that I keep in my hand.
See, we've got one in the shop, one on the
They've
circuit.
got our name tag, so.
Okay, I just not thought about it that way. But
You just gotta get somebody that.
But you keep pretty good inventory over there. You have you keep empties on the wall.
Yeah.
I often do
I
the
think
cash,
you do.
you know,
That's not that often, like every 5 years or something. As long as you,
shouldn't be a problem.
and they'll test them.
Oh, and you can bet that for the most part, unless the valves give it up, those things are lifetime purchases.
Will you run that to ground, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like everybody's in favor of it. Okay.
Well, it was one of those deals, Judge, at one time it was insignificant.
Yeah,
But it's
now
become-
it's become, because
Real,
they
real,
really
yeah.
find
It's
tune that.
like $36 a year.
Yeah.
Because what are you gonna do, Jim, as the backyard shop guy with 2 bottles? You can't find them.
Right.
And so, you just
Locally,
no alternative.
I checked not very long ago, and I thought the little auction bottles here locally were like $600 or $700. So if we get the big ones for $350, then
Yeah, this will be a wholesale deal through, a large vendor, so.
All right, move on to item number 5, which is receipt presentation from Joe Burchick with Centrio on potential new phone system. I think I'll ask Brendan maybe to introduce Joe and what we're hearing from today.
Yes, we've got 2 Joes with us today
Oh,
to
all right.
demonstrate the potential of a new phone system and kind of have any questions answered and to give you guys a presentation just so you can see the options that we have going forward.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it. Just wanted to go over a couple of quick things as far as Centrio. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with us or how this is working. So just a couple years ago, let's call it 72 years ago, there was a company that was started called Santa Rosa Communications. Santa Rosa Cooperative, actually. Started off as a telephone provider. Since been growing over the years, getting into fiber optic services and everything else, of which the county's already taken advantage of our fiber optic services as well. About 3 years ago, we acquired a couple of companies. One of them was PCNet, which is a managed services company and do a little bit of everything for us. We also acquired Pinnacle Network Solution, which is a internet company. It's a wireless internet provider. So basically, over the years, I'm the director of sales and marketing. So we were running everything as 3 different entities, so 3 different budgets and 3 different marketing campaigns and everything else. So I got to the time to bring the synergy of the 3 companies together, so that's where Centrio was born. So I just wanted y'all to know where the whole history of everything came from. So with that being said, we got to talking with Brendan about phone services. I know there's some things that people are having issues with the current phone system. It's a little bit older, and it's time to kind of get things bring things to a head and get to a newer type of service with things that we can offer. So the system that we're looking at is we're looking at a managed services solution for you guys. Basically, this is a phone system. These are things that they you know how it is with computers and anything else anymore. A year later, they're just outdated, and what you bought isn't new and neat and cool anymore. So what this does is it alleviates all that. We manage it for you. We provide the handsets for you. Anything that goes wrong with it, we're a phone call away. With the newer phone systems as well, generally what you're doing is you're going with a VoIP solution, which is going over your internet service. What happens 9 times out of 10 is you have a problem with something, and all the vendors are pointing the fingers at each other. So what I like to do is go with the one throat to choke type of thing. So we're your internet provider. We also want to be your phone service provider. So if there's a problem, you can pretty much just call up and say, Joe, it doesn't work. And we just come in and take care of it. I do have some pricing information we can answer questions on and all that later on. But what I wanted to do first was introduce, I don't know if y'all know Brian or not.
Yes, Brian's helped us consult with us.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, so he's I'm the director of sales and marketing. He's the director of managed services.
I just want to clear, he's a lot older than I was in school, so. He was
Wait a minute.
above
Didn't we graduate at the same time?
But yeah, so the phone services side of the house, that will all fall underneath, under his departments and everything else.
Right.
So he'll be able to answer any questions as well. Got Joe Camacho here as well. He wants to, I'm gonna have him do a demo for us. He's gonna kind of show a few things, kind of show the handset, show what this thing will do. It's not what you traditionally think of when you think of a phone system. Through this, we're gonna have the ability to do conferencing and, obviously your call transfers, call recordings if you need them at different departments, a little bit of everything. And it's an easy point-click web-based solution. So I'm the dumb sales guy. I can talk all day long. He's the one that knows how it all works. So I'll get him up here and let him start going through it for you.
Yep, I'm Joe Camacho. Been hanging out with the PCNet Centuria guys for a little while now. And yeah, I kind of wanted to touch up on what Bursick said about VoIP. What you guys have right now is referred to as POTS. Lines have to be run directly for these phone numbers. Names and extensions are hard to change. And
David, thank you.
sorry. You're fine, Lord. And then lines refer to phone numbers. A lot of that stuff is very different in VoIP. This is voice over internet protocol. Anywhere you have a computer drop, we can plug in a phone. You do not have to run another computer drop. I have an in and an out on this piece of machinery. So if you have a computer, we unplug the internet, plug it in the back of this phone, and go out of the phone into the computer, and your phone will light up. Power, I heard that you guys have power, that you can supply power to these phones through your network. We call that PoE. So power can be supplied that way, or of course I have mine plugged in today with just a power adapter. So yeah, if people move around offices, if you have to move from upstairs to downstairs, you just grab that phone and move it around.
So let me ask on that right there. That, Brendan, is a 2-wire function to bring, if I'm plugging into the computer to get my power, I have 2 cords going to the phone, or is it 1 cord carrying all of that?
Yeah, our switches provide power, so you go into the phone through one cord and come out of the phone into the computer.
And
So it just sits between the computer and the wall.
Okay.
So it looks like one cord that just acts as an extension.
So if my laptop's out of my dock, would the phone still work?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Oh yeah, so changes are made very easily. If Susie Q leaves the job and Billy moves into that position, we change that name, it shows up on everybody else's phone. Your speed dials, I have a handful of speed dials, they're BLS, but I'm gonna call them speed dials today. Your speed dial, that name will change. It's not a big deal for occasions like that. Extensions are the same. We can change extensions, move those around. So if everybody in this courthouse is the 1000s group and everybody down the street or in another city is the 2000s group, all that is very easy for us to move around and change. Call flow is also easy and complicated. It can be complicated as we decide to make it, as we work with y'all to decide to make it, but those changes can be made really easily. And yes, there are no more lines anymore. If I go to a dentist office that has 8 people that are working there, we would give them 4 or 8 continuous or simultaneous calls at one time, all right? And that is one phone number. They don't have to hit line 1 or hit line 2, and if line 1's busy, they have to hit line 2. Don't think that way anymore. So we would give them either 4 simultaneous calls or 8 simultaneous calls. You guys would have 64. We can go up to like 1,000 calls at one time, just for one phone number. Now, obviously, y'all have different phone numbers. We're going to work with you guys on that, or we can, or whatever. But yes, there is a Archer City, a couple of phone numbers over there. They're not going to have lines. And then, yes, we have been asked about recordings. Your call recordings, we can hook up external hard drives in different locations to facilitate as much recording space as you guys need. Normally, again, I keep saying dentist office or something like that, We would set up a very small, like external hard drive on that location, and that would record during years for those people. You guys would be a much grander scale. We would set up a much bigger hard drive. It would probably be a PC with a bunch of hard drives in it. But yes, we can record for a very long period of time. And if Ms. Rushing needed access to just her recordings, we could give her access to just her recordings. If she had a department of people that she worked with, we could, I believe, give her granular access to just those people.
She could point and click on her computer and listen to the voice messages?
That is correct. I'm going to show you guys that here in a second. That is absolutely correct.
Some of the other things you've got, I'm sorry, but one of the other things that we utilize in our own organization for our call center folks, I can actually do a drop-in while my call center team is on the phone with a customer. I can do a drop-in. They don't even know I'm there, and I can hear what they're doing.
Right.
I can also do an announce that says, hey, I'm here, and interject into the calls as well. So it gives you not only the ability to hear what your people have said, but you can actually hear what they're saying while they're saying it to do any possible corrections that you need to do at the same time. Sorry, Jim.
You can also give them instructions without the other end hearing
That's right.
what you're, that's
Right.
the whisper.
A great sales tool, yeah.
Yes.
But yes, it's,
Yeah, great for training and customer service training and sales training, absolutely.
Great for knowing and keeping us out of trouble.
Yeah. And we can also set those who you never want recorded, you know, so it's not an all or nothing. We can get granular.
All right, let me ask you guys a question, and it would calm my nerves a little bit. Do y'all want to just go over the basics, or do you just want me to show you the phone and the app and the web app? I can walk through the basics, and I think that might clear up a few things. Some people might say it's just a phone, everybody knows how this works, or I can cover a few things like these speed dials and what exactly all of them do that.
Just basics, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so skip, do the basics, do my regular speech.
well, I mean, all of those features, I know they're going to be the state-of-the-art kind of features, and we'll have to learn those as we adapt, but I was trying to find our spreadsheet on our phone deal. I know we paid it off, but I was trying to pull that up so I could just brief the commissioners on that. But I was very interested in the analytics, because when we went to bid and we struggled selecting which one we did, but we had to cut out all of the analytics portion of our phone, and we missed that. And then we also, I'm assuming that Brendan's department will be able to understand and overview the analytics of the phone. So, for example, at any given time, I'm assuming that Brendan, our assigned person, even the district clerk herself, can look and see how many of her girls have turned their phones off, so they're not going to be able to receive a call. And can she override that function and turn them all back on?
The answer to that in that show is yes.
Because that's my experience from managing a dashboard with a phone system. It is paramount that occur, because I have often felt that is what happens to us a lot of times.
What that looks like on our end.
the access to turn it off.
Do what?
Your staff shouldn't have the access to.
Well, they're going to be gone.
themselves
They're going
out
to go
of
to the restroom. They're going to go to lunch break, and you don't want the phone dead ending to them.
You go out of rotation.
Yeah, but also I can say after 4 rings, go to caller 2, right?
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so I have a demo web client set up here. And in the web client, I have just 3 people, all right? You can make your own group. So if she has 10 people that are in her crew, she can customize and add and take names out of those 10 people, and at a glance see who is logged into their phone and who has said, I'm away, do not disturb, and those types of things. So that is a heads up analytics. You don't have to make any phone calls to IT to see that at all. The web client is very powerful as well. If there are people that are on the phone quite a bit, you can make phone calls from your computer. I have these silly headphones plugged in right here. I don't need this piece of equipment at all, technically. And our call center guys, they don't use their phones. They plug in here and they make calls through their web app. So with a click of a button, she can call her crew, anybody in her group, and just through the computer, make that phone call. And why would you do that? There are a handful of reasons. Number one, heaven forbid we go back home for COVID. You don't need to pick this up and take it with you to operate when you're away from your desk. If you're in Austin for a conference and you need to conduct business and be present at something like this, you can do that and make phone calls. And it looks like you're sitting at your desk from this website. And we can do a demo of that here in a second. It's actually really easy. The other thing we have is a mobile app. What I did is I went and I got to the Apple App Store or Android. I opened up that app store and got an app called 3CX. And in my email, I was given an email, and it has a QR code that knows who I am. I point my phone at that, and I'm done. And now that phone knows that I'm Joe Camacho for Centrio and what my number is and whatnot. So again, it takes that phone and puts it in my pocket. So if I'm on a road trip to Austin, or if I'm taking care of a loved one, or if I do have COVID, but I'm able to do my job, my phone is going to ring and it's going to look like I'm sitting at my desk. Caller ID, inner office calls, just if somebody dials my extension 101, it rings this phone and rings this.
But Joe, if I call, or Joe calls back to Nancy, do you go into the app to make the dial? So you open the app and then make the call. You just don't dial it regular on your phone, right?
That is exactly right. I'm going to open up that 3CX right now. And so this looks like my normal keypad on my iPhone, but this is the 3CX app. If I dial my cell phone number, or if I dial somebody else at another company, it's going to look like I'm sitting at this desk. It's going to say Wichita County. So yes,
and that's the caller ID information that's showing up is what we're assigned at the courthouse, not the employee's personal cell phone.
We can do, correct. Yes, that is absolutely correct. It'll say Archer, it'll say Wichita, it'll say whatever.
And the reason for that is because it is. Whenever you open that 3CX app, that phone is provisioned to your phone system. When you're in that app, you are calling from your phone system, not from your cell phone.
Okay.
So the call is actually coming from the county.
Yeah, and
then get text messaging through it at all?
Yes, that is correct.
So if somebody wants to get the records from that app,
I'm going to call it.
How would that work? Is there a way to do that? Is there a way to recover messages from that?
I'm going to call it chat. It's not exactly SMS texting. It is a chat feature. And yes, we can recover those.
It's a secure chat.
If you have that app, to me, if that's on your phone, then that's fair game for an open record request. Whatever's in that app, which means your phone, which is, I don't know how I feel about that, but
it is.
It would just be through the app. It would be how much data can you recover data out of the app and things like that. I'm assuming you could.
Yes.
Well, it's in the system. It's not in the app.
Okay.
So it's tied to the same. If I'm chatting from my laptop or from the app on the phone, it's coming through the web.
But Mel, the app is an option, not mandatory.
Okay.
So you could say, hey, we want the phone system, but we're not going to.
Well, sure, I certainly understand that. I'm just kind of curious about it.
Yeah.
What is the subject to that anyway? Like if I text the judge,
It's on the
then that time my phone up.
Yeah, but getting it.
That's what I've always understood anyways.
But how long is that chat information stored, do you know?
We can store that as long as we have hard drive space, which could be a very long time.
Okay.
Like a year, 2 years.
Okay, and so then let me jump into the message. So I leave you a message.
Voicemail.
A voicemail.
Yes, sir.
I can have that voicemail emailed to me, right?
Yes, sir. That is absolutely right. So your voicemail, we have a little comforting envelope here. You can press that and dial your PIN code and answer your voicemail here. That is correct. You can answer your voicemail here. Very
Over
easily.
email?
Hold on a second.
Not respond to it, but hear it.
Hold on a second.
Yes.
I can check my email here as well. All right. So you have voicemail in these 3 areas, but yes, through 3CX, you have 3 choices for email. It can live on these devices, right? Or that can be sent to you in an email. So my email comes to me, jcamacho@wfpcnet.com. And when I receive that email, I get that audio file, but we also have transcription services that are fairly solid. They do a pretty good job, even with the thick Texas accent and my nasalness. It does a pretty dang good job. It's not perfect. That's why the audio feature is there. So we've actually saved hospitals thousands of dollars by transcribing emails for them. So yes, you get, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Now, the third option. So you can either have it here, or you can have it sent to your email. Third option is both. It can live here, and I can have a copy of it sent to my email, all right? Question always comes up is, if I delete it from my email, that'll take it off this phone, right? No, that's not right. It's you get a copy in both directions.
But how many can I store before I have to go into the data bank and clear those messages so it taps out? When does it tap out?
With the storage that I think that you guys are going to wind up using, I don't think you're going to.
But one single user, Nancy, can stack up 1,000 and never clear them out and still receive voicemails?
I want to get back to you on that, but yeah, if we put in hard drives like I'm assuming that we will, we're going to have a lot of storage. We're having a lot of storage. We can do that. It's so let me give you a little example. The program that we use is called 3CX, and there are a lot of major call centers that use this. We're rolling this out to doctors' offices that never even touch what this program can do. So yeah, we can store voicemails. We can store
I was used to, so I would listen to my voicemails email-wise, but if I didn't go into the data bank at 99, then they quit. You went to my voicemail, it wouldn't let you in.
Brian hadn't checked his voicemail in like 3 years. No, we're good. I'm kidding. We're good.
Okay, and then my next question is, how many users? So Tanya is receiving an email based on her voicemail, but Tanya's on vacation. And so Tanya's email, if Tanya's got a worker email or she's got a split that can occur, how many times can she split that?
So if somebody leaves the way we normally handle that, and I might get out there, let me pause real quick. I'm going to show you the ease of use of the phone.
I just got to ask, do you have a waterproof unit?
We do have some cordless handsets that are made for warehouses, and they're made for the elements. So yes, we have something that is built for that. I'm not sure exactly what waterproofness. But these have been beat up. We've got these in some factories. We've got these in some rough areas, and they hold up pretty well. And with y'all's
I'm just being a
Well, in all seriousness, Mr. Mahler, the issue that we had where, say, our folks that were displaced had to work from home for a week or two, they've lost access to their office phone essentially. With this, they wouldn't, but
That's
they could do it either through the web portal or through their mobile.
That's what I just picked up there. Well, what a handy deal.
If you guys have, I'm sure you guys have people that are just not at their desks. You might have people that don't have desks. They can grab this app or grab a laptop and make phone calls. You dial 101 to 102, and it looks like they're just sitting and picking up this phone when it could be here or it could be here.
Because it looks to me like this brings your computer and your phone together.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely.
I mean, you go to one.
That is correct.
So I'm the lowest tech guy here, so, I can figure that out.
So, at Vernon College, we have, there's a receptionist here, and there's a receptionist in Vernon, so Century City and Vernon. They have 3 or 4 sidecars with 3 or 4, like 10, 20, 30 speed dials set up on those little sidecars with all those extensions. Well, at your computer, I can have those 40 extensions just pre-populated on my desktop and click. I can see who's on the phone and who they're on the phone with. If 101's on the phone with 102 and Joe's on the phone with Joe, Brian can see that we've been talking for 5-10 minutes. Tech support, this is Joe.
Hey Joe, so sorry about that.
No, you're fine. All right, so very cool. All right, so let me talk a little bit about what we have right here. This is our Yearling phone. And I also wanted to stress that we have this phone is very compatible with lots of different headsets. If you have a decent headset, it'll work with about 90% of headsets that are on the market. You can grab your kid's USB gaming headset off their Xbox, plug it into the USB port on the back of this thing, and 9 out of 10 times it's going to work. Now, that being said, if you have people that are on the phones quite a bit, we do have Yearling headsets, that brand. It's very intuitive. It has a few things like a on-off or in-call button or answer call button. So those types of things might not work with the other brands of headsets. So we recommend the Yearling headsets. They have wired, wireless, the little Madonna mic looking things, big headsets. They've got and so that's what we would recommend. But yeah, if you guys have Jabber or any of those other brands, most likely those are going to work as well. All right, so I just wanted to show you what we have here on this display. I have SP1, SP2. Isaiah's on the line. Isaiah, you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, he's muting himself. That's good. All right, so and I can see that his phone line is red. I know that he's in a call. I have Sam, Brian, and an external number. So let me talk about just speed dialing Isaiah. I just reached over here and hit that one button, and his phone rang. We can pre-populate your office with your handful of people that you speak with normally all the time. And then we can also set up a handful of outside numbers. If you call a bank or a water company or whatever, those outside numbers can be set up as speed dials as well. But what we also have here is part 1 and part 2. That's kind of like a hold, but if I put Isaiah on SP1, everybody's light that has SP1 is going to light up red. He's going to be put on hold, or not park. He's going to be put on park, and he's going to hear our hold music. All right, it's going to go silent. And at that point, I'm going to say, "Hey, somebody grab Isaiah. He's on the line. He wants to talk about blah blah blah." And somebody else, Ms. Rushing, can be like, "Okay, let me grab that." She hits SP1 and just grabs that phone. So you can either do a direct transfer, but this is a whole lot easier by just putting them on park. And we would put this building, we would give y'all SP123, Park 123, and the other places would get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we wouldn't have any cross kind of things like that. We obviously have a mute button, we have a hold button, we have a transfer button. Transferring is very easy. I'm going to hit transfer, and there's 2 schools of thought on this. I can either send that phone call directly and be like, "All right, Ms. Rushing, you're going to handle this," and not give her any heads up at all that we have a problem on the line. And she is blind to that. We call that a blind. Usually. Yes, we call that a blind transfer. Or, of course, we would more likely lean to the attended transfer, where I'm in the call right now. I have a transfer button on my phone. I would hit transfer, and then hopefully I have her speed dial, or I would have her extension on hand. There's a directory. Anyway, one of those 3 ways I would get her on the phone. I would say, "Hey, look, we got a problem. Brian's on the line. He's confused about something again. I'm going to transfer the call to you. Here you go." Brian's confused all the time. So, and then that call goes over to her. I hit transfer again. She gets the heads up on all of that. Same thing with conference. It's the same buttons. I have Isaiah's still on the line, so I have my conference button right here. I would hit conference, and then whatever, Rushing, I would hit that button and say, "Hey, we're both going to talk to Brian," and then hit conference again, and we're all 3 joining. So it's all right here. So we basically, Isaiah and I would normally line up all of these buttons for you, and then these buttons right down here change depending on what kind of mode the phone is in. But that's really it about the phone, aside from, the basics.
Can you conference in with outside lines?
Absolutely.
Okay. And how many folks can you get on one conference?
Isaiah, you still there? I believe we have three on our conference.
Yeah, a total of 3. but I will verify that.
It could be more than 3 at a conference, yes. But we'll get you the real numbers, Judge.
But we would also have the ability to have a conference line, actually, where people dial into that line like you would, right?
Absolutely. Isaiah?
Yes, that's correct. This conference on the phone is basically like, hey, I don't know the answer to that question. Let me pull in Brian and ask him, and we can just have a quick conference call. If we wanted to schedule a conference call, that is something that we could do in the web client. That could be a video conference call or a just a call, a regular phone call, that is a conference call.
Can I transfer and part from the web portal?
Yes, you can definitely transfer. I just want to take a minute and just show you guys, by the way, I see Isaiah on my web client. So Joe, I'm not on the phone right now. That phone is not named Joe. That phone is actually named Centrio Demo. And it says, and I don't have a color scheme for this, but I see that Isaiah is on the phone with that other person. I get that heads up. I don't know if you guys can see all this, but
It's amazing to me how good the sound quality is on that.
and he's on a laptop, by the way. He's on a laptop, and
That's really broadcast quality there. That's good stuff.
Well, I will say I'm not using my workstation microphone. This is an attachment, so the call quality is good. Not to say that the quality is not good, but it may be, this conversation is better because I'm using a microphone that's like a radio DJ type microphone.
Even I can hear it and understand it, yeah. It's just amazing how much better, because I don't hear real well, but I mean, that's clear as well.
And this is just the standard speakerphone.
Yeah.
We've got headsets for days.
Do you have conference phones?
So is that.
That's a good question.
What was the question?
Do you have conference phones?
Yes, there are many different types of conference phones. And even those, and they are amazing on, you talk about sound quality, just on one, but you can also get them to where they have the satellite speakers. So if you have a large, and they're wireless. So there's not, you can put the a speaker at this end of the conference table and one at the other end, and it's wireless to the base unit in the middle. And they're really, and you can mute from any of those locations.
So if the speaker phone's in front of Tanya there, and we'd have some form of microphone in front of us here, cordless to the conference phone, right?
Correct. The conference phones in this area, in this room right here, are whisper like microphones. So I can stand in that corner over there and I can whisper C-A-T, and the other person on the other line would hear that. Let me tell you how I know that. We were talking about pricing, and we were like, man, we really like these guys' features, but we want to try and get the pricing down. And they're like, hey man, we can hear y'all. So, I want to give y'all heads up. On conference phones, don't whisper if you're on a conference call.
We
yes,
experienced the inverse of that.
Don't trust your whisper, because you're not whispering. It's not happening. Okay, so what Brian means by wireless, that thing can sit in the corner, and if you have a solid oak conference table, you know what I'm saying, that can sit plugged into power and plugged into network over here, and then you lift that thing up, it has a battery in it, and you can place it over here, no cords, and then dial in and out. The interface is like an Android interface. It looks like an iPhone or looks like an Android phone. It's pretty sharp. But yes, we have conference phones. We have sidecars. The phone that you're looking at right here is our good, better, best. This is our better phone. We have some black and white models that you would put in warehouses. We have some larger touchscreen phones that you would put executive or reception style.
I need one with a dial.
I'll see what I can do. Yeah. Hold your questions till the end, please. No, just kidding. We do have the handsets. We have the cordless handset that we all used to have at home about 20 years ago. And the range on those is pretty phenomenal. If you do have a warehouse and you want 3 cordless handsets, those chat back to one little base station home. We can put up to 10 handsets up in a warehouse on one little base. Again, they have all kinds of headsets, and I feel like I'm leaving something out. But yeah, gear, the Yealink stuff, we've been impressed. We like it. It's pretty short. You guys want to make a phone call from the app or make a phone call from the web?
Yeah.
It works.
No, I'm on Tanya's issue though, if Tanya receives her voicemail by email
Yes, sir.
and she wants to set up Tanya's gonna be gone for a week.
Sure.
How many people can Tanya get to receive her voicemails?
Can she delegate?
What we normally do, Isaiah, you hear that?
Yeah, so what we could do in that situation is we could set up a forwarding rule. So we could put Tanya's extension in Do Not Disturb or put it in Away and listen to excuse me, and listen to this is out of the office for a week or whatever. 3CX does give us the option to set a schedule. So if we set it for a week at 11:21 next Friday, whatever day that is, it'll come back off of Do Not Disturb or Away. And in that status, we could set it to forward to a different extension. We could have it ring her, ring her extension or go to voicemail or vice versa. So the calls would still be handled appropriately. We would just need to figure out who needs to get those calls while a person is out. And that can all be set up by the user in the 3CX web client.
That's what I was going to mention. That was a good segue. So I mentioned earlier that we can set up these buttons for you guys. In the web client, when you log into this, you can control this phone from this web client. So if you want to add your own speed dial for your husband, wife, you can add that and type in their phone number, and every time you hit that button, it'll go to that person. Of course, you can set up your own staff members, and if you're in Archer and you want to speak with HR in another location, you can add those people yourself.
If our internet goes down, our phones go down.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
No, that's the case primarily
Well-
anyway.
The app that will be functional. So
Okay.
Beat me to it.
the internet is now for the entire county offices. If you have the 3CX app on your cell phone, you still will be able to make calls.
This is not tied to the computer network in this building. This is tied to other things. Yes, that's right.
That's a nice redundancy.
Absolutely, absolutely. You guys won't go down. You'll work off your cell phone or remotely from home or whatever. That is correct.
And go ahead, Jeff.
Well, and so how much data is retained as far as the number of calls monthly to the county clerk's office? How far back can I see that information?
You're just talking about records of calls made from point A to point B, not those recordings.
Right.
You're just talking about if I search from this number, how many calls have gone out from this extension.
Right.
Ah, man, I would want to say that that's indefinite, right? That's it?
That's actually a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I could look it up.
I'm going to go as far as to say you can go back at least 1 year. No doubt a year. I would say 24 months.
And how does that, can I design the dashboard or the control panel to give me a report of the volume of calls per department on a monthly basis?
We have a robust reporting tool. It is
So
very
3CX will allow us to auto schedule reports. So in the first of every month for the county clerk ring room, we can see how many calls are going. If we go into a queue, we can get even more data. This extension was logged in at this time, this extension took so many calls versus this extension, and that can all be automated and sent to whoever or a group, the first of the month.
Okay.
Or the last month.
And so when I pick up the phone today at my desk and I dial someone in Wichita Falls, it shows up as Wichita County at a 8100-766-8100. What happens if we're on your phone system and makes a call? What will that number show up as?
That'll show.
Whatever that number needs to show up as. So we will continue to keep your caller ID. So I assume that let's just say that the county clerk has a different published number than the another department. Sorry, I can't think of another department. But we could differentiate that in 3CX. So if a call calls coming from this extension needs to go out as this number. But on the flip side of that, if somebody calls 911, if somebody calls emergency services, we can tell the phone system, if somebody dials 911 from this group, it needs to go out this published number that is enhanced, an enhanced DID that carries the address to emergency services.
Okay, because
We are able to, I don't want to say manipulate, but we are able to designate the caller ID based on extension and where they're physically located at.
because every satellite that we have at this point in time under the current phone system shows up as a 766-8100, but 911 understands it. The VoIP phones that we have, we're now able to read that to where that call actually came in from. But you're telling me that if I'm in Electra and I make a phone call, that phone call is going to show up as the Electra office number. Okay. And then, so what does it sound like if I don't know what I actually need when I call Wichita County Courthouse, other than the fact that where I'm supposed to be, I believe, is at the courthouse? What does my intro look like?
That can be anything that you guys want it to be. We can have county, speak to a judge, check in, HR. I'm trying to think of what offices you guys have. The message. So let me start over.
You can build an AVR however we need it to.
Yes. So we can have a digital receptionist that says, "Thank you for calling Wichita County. Our hours, normally it would sit out like this. Our office hours are 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. If this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. Or if you're worried about this, that, or the other thing, we can leave a message there. And then for this group of people, press 1. So we have 0 through 9. That could be up to 10 different numbers, right? And if you say, I need to speak with the judge, or you have a court appointment, please press 1. And you press 1. That can lead to another set of 10 numbers. And it can go if you were in this county, if you were in this, if you need to pay a fine, or if you need to check in for this, press 1, press 2, press 3. So 0 through 9 can go again. And I believe it could keep on going, Isaiah.
Yeah, it can. I mean, it'll be a very complex those are receptions, but we can do it. Or we recommend it.
And see, that is a problem for us today because we have 2 banks, so we can go 1 through 9, and then we have the 9th is a choice for another bank that you hear, and that gives us about 18, but we have about over 30 that need to be reached, but at some point people get tired of listening to who they need to do, and they want a easier way to understand what or how to contact somebody. For example, if you were on the way to a district court trial, or you're a jury member, let's say, and you're involved in a wreck, and you call the courthouse, well, good luck trying to get a hold of the district judge. You're not going to do that. You can tell somebody that can relay the message for you, but you're not going to get to ring their office because we just don't have them all listed because we can't think of a better way to do it than having dial by name. I always, First Bank, if you call First Bank, if you know the last name of the person you're calling, well, I call him Dan. I don't know what his last name is. So, I mean, is there a ideal solution that the market says, hey, this.
Yeah, he needs to be real thirsty. You need a switchboard operator.
I'm gonna see that go off on a limb, and Isaiah, if you have anything to add to this, please do.
The biggest thing I would say is those are all things that we can address.
We can address.
What I would say is what I would love to have as far as some feedback is what do you like about the current system that you have, so we can make sure that we focus on implementing that, and what's driving you nuts, and then we can focus on that and make sure that we address it. And it sounds like that's one of them.
Well, today, like I can call Nancy direct, but there are numbers that we never gave them that ability. I don't know that I understand exactly why we didn't, but we had the ability to, but we kept some so that they had to come into the bank and go to the extension and not be a direct dial straight to that person.
So what we can do is we can do the call tree, and it can start 0 through 9 at the top, and it can branch out and go as to many other digital receptions that you guys want. The second option to that is you can say, if you know your party's extension, you can dial in now, and they can dial in 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and get whoever's extension that is. No need to dial by name. I believe that we can dial by name, but I think the bottom line is there's no way to make everybody happy. If somebody calls in and they have no idea what they're trying to call for, you can't make everybody happy.
And it might be something as far as just categorizing everything. For court services, press 1. For family court, for district court, for commissioner's court, whatever, and then we can kind of break it down that way. For county services, press 1. For sanitation, whatever, we go through all the different, maybe it's just looking at what we've currently got and try and merge them somehow. It might be just kind of looking at what you guys have been on this system for a long time, and I know how when you've been working with something like that, it ends up being, we're just dealing with it, you know what I mean?
Well,
so I think now's the time to really build it into what you want.
And to that point, we've been on this system since about 2017. Prior to that, we had a courthouse operator, and she was the designator. You got her, and you told her what your need was, and she sent you where you belong. Up until then, when we migrated away from AT&T service and went to this service, that's when we became modernized enough to have a menu of how to pick and choose. But it becomes complicated when it is complex.
Well, that's easy. All we need is AI and reception.
How many counties have this? Do we know how many counties are using this same system? Is that you can do?
3CX, like I said, it is a call center. It is very robust. We can do anything you guys want to do. I can do some research when we get back to you and see.
I just have some questions. I mean, so for example, if somebody sends me an open record request and they say, I want a year's worth of Jeff Watts transcribed voicemails.
Now, I won't have that selection. I won't pick that to be on there. It could be something that...
Well, if you did, what I'm saying is those transcripts are all open record requests that have to be complied with, which means, number one, if they exist, if we do have a feature like that, there's retention laws that have to be complied with. We cannot just willy-nilly after a month destroy all of that. Those have to meet whatever the retention laws are for those specific types of information, and that's all, that it's different for everything on those. So that's something to keep in mind, is that if anytime you're creating data in the government, that has to be accounted for. And honestly, the less we create, the better because of that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there are some things functionally we're going to need, and we're going to have number one, how do we recover those transcriptions? Is that easy to do? I'm assuming it is. It would have to be.
Once that transcription goes into an email, I think that would come back down to however you guys are storing them on the IT side of the house.
Now, Mel, that request, voicemail-wise, are, I guess that could be a request.
Yes.
No, those are something that the whole system would have, but we could easily turn off all departments and not. We don't do it today. We don't record any phone calls today.
Our office, I don't have a voicemail. You can't leave me a voicemail.
Right.
We don't have it. I don't want it. Okay. And I'm glad I don't have it. But not every other office can do that.
Right.
So,
and what we do, we bank ours to Debbie. So, she's answering our phone calls and sending us a note, hey, call Billy, he's wanting.
But even the recorded phone, the message is subject to an open record request.
Right.
If it's data, that data.
Now that happens though today, Mel. We're already doing that on this phone system.
Exactly, and that's fine. But I just, we got to think about that a little bit. And I don't know I have no answer for a bunch of that. I don't know what the system can do.
If the answer, if you guys decide obviously not to record, we don't have to do that.
We also don't have to do the transcription.
Voicemail.
It does not have to transcribe what it thinks was just said into the email. That is an option.
Well, but what he's saying is when I get a voice file, over email and I click on it to play it on my laptop, that is an email that he's
it would be
subject
subject
to
to
comply
open
open
records
records
that way.
request.
As long as we have it and can get it, that's good. Like I said, I'm all for not creating a bunch more data, but sometimes it's unavoidable. In modern times, you're going to create it. But we have to make sure, number one, we have the ability to get it, and that it doesn't get destroyed too soon once it's created.
And that, I'm certain that they can make that happen, but what I would wonder, who has to go through, so open records requests come in for Jeff in 2020 for voicemails that Jeff would receive. Who listens to those 1,000 voicemails to see that the personal ones are cut out? Who is that personnel?
Well, I mean, honestly,
It's you or it's them.
Yeah, the responsibility's on the department or office to go through and do that, and I would probably have to be involved with that too.
Well, I would assume if it's on county or government
I mean, there are no
machines,
personal.
there is no personal.
And I think you're exactly. That's the first point I would make is number one.
Yeah.
If you put it on there, it's open. It's open season on it. Anybody can get it. So, I'm always keep your personal business personal is what I would tell everybody if I can, because that's you are anything you're sticking on our system, whether it's an email, anything like that, is subject to review. And so that's why you have to kind of think about it when you're creating data or creating documents or whatever
I'm
it
just
is.
thinking about the emergency phone call Jim's wife left him that says,
That's
hey,
open. That's open. They get to look at that. The public would have full access. They would. You don't think so?
No, something like that. It's strictly the personal nature. There's an exemption for it.
You would have to fight that, though. You would have to fight that on that particular one. But there's not a whole lot like that. It has to be probably something very much like a medical thing, maybe.
It introduces, and this is why he brings it up and asks about other counties doing it, because we're different. There's also stuff that's of a temporal nature you can delete. You don't have to, but then that introduces an extra management aspect on individuals. There's an exception, I thought, for public officials on if a constituent calls you, and now the information exchange between the two of you is protected because they're a constituent. I mean, I know this was the case for a state representative.
Yeah.
It may be different for the county. Anyway, you're bringing up a lot of good questions that we need to navigate through, because those records are on your mind right now.
But exactly. That's.
But I just want to point out that this doesn't change anything. We've already got that occurring today.
Yes. Correct.
Yes.
And so
Yes,
this is
absolutely.
not any more than what we have. The
It would be nice
analytics
if it
though
was
is what we
easier.
don't have.
If it's easier, I'm assuming it probably is, and I just want to know about it. I mean, I think we need to think about it.
So
For sure.
looking at where we're at in our system, I guess that Brandon has given you as a whole, what are we talking a month for this service?
No, we're getting there. That's where you bring me back in for the bad news. Couple of things we've got to look at on this is, I apologize, this looks confusing, but it's just the way we do our billing. But basically, if you want to go ahead and just flip to the back page. You guys share? If you want to flip to the last,
Numbers keep going up.
yeah, if you want to flip to the last page, otherwise the rest of it kind of reads like car stereo installation instructions. The first part that we've got here is this is going to be your service, okay? So that's the phone service SIP Connect. So this is a 60-month agreement. So this is just going to be for the service itself. Has nothing to do with the handsets, has nothing to do with services being managed. So just for your phone lines and your services is going to be $8.95 per month. The next line down is going to be the hardware and the managed services piece. It's going to be $37.44 a month. That is all of your handsets. That is all of your cloud controllers. That's your the service agreement. So basically, here again, we're the one throat to choke. There's a problem with a handset, we come out, we change it out.
I'm guessing all of these numbers are based upon what Brendan got you for what we're currently using.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that includes us coming out and fixing anything, any warranty issues, anything. Anything and everything that goes on with the phone call. If you need to call in and add users, things like that, we can help you with that as well. It's a complete managed system. You guys have your business to run, our business's phones, let us run it so you guys can do what you need to do. The last section is the installation and configuration. That's us getting all of these phones in. It's us getting them programmed and set up with the users. That's setting up the IVR, so to speak. So when people call in, what's the recording they're gonna get? Thank you for calling, who are you trying to reach, so on and so forth. We'll develop all that for you. We'll establish your work groups and everything else. That's training. That's bringing Joe out. He's gonna go through it. We'll figure out a schedule with meeting with the departments and everybody who's gonna be utilizing the phones so they know how to use those devices and what they need to do. So basically it's a one and done. We're gonna come out, we're gonna deploy the handsets, we'll deploy them at each workstation as they go, and then once we get the numbers ported from your existing provider over to Centrio, we'll come in, move the plugs around, and start getting the phone services up and bringing them up. So that's us all on hands and everything else. As far as systems like this, it's nothing that we're afraid of doing at all. It's not gonna be our largest. It will be one of our largest, but it won't be the largest one that we've ever deployed. It's what we do every day. We've got a dedicated group that does nothing but the phone service side of the house, and they'll be handling all that for you. So, and of course, we'll be working with Brendan, and there's gonna be a lot of steps I feel we need to go through as we get to this point to deploy, as far as setting up the call groups. We wanna set up what those call recordings need to be. How long do you wanna store the voicemails? What reports do you want? We wanna make sure it's a turnkey solution, so there's not any questions or anything when we're done.
One thing we did is this quote was based on a one-to-one, if we did everything like we did it now. But there's some people that might not need desk phones this way. There's some people that can go forward with just the web-based, and there's things that we can change based on what this system can do that ours currently cannot. So this quote was based, like I said, as a drop-in exactly what we have now. Everybody that has a phone would have a phone going forward. But that can all be reevaluated.
And this includes every feature and everything. We didn't sit there and cherry pick the features and everything else. We are just opening up the doors and you get it all. So, yeah.
And so, Brendan and Joe, y'all feel comfortable that if every phone in our system, for whatever event occurred, and we're all on the phone, and every one of them's tied up, we've got the bandwidth to pull this on the voice system?
Without question.
Okay.
The one thing I did want to mention on the bandwidth, there was a discussion if the internet was to go out, and I just want to kind of reassure you guys a little bit on the internet. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Centrio internet platform and what we have built. We do things a little bit differently. We build things, I would say it's a little overdone, which is good when you deal with the internet. So we have redundant routes that leave town and everything else. Everything we build is done in a loop so that there is no chance for anything to go down. If there was an issue, I always use Backhoe Bob as an example on I-35. They've been building I-35 since the Earth. Yeah, I was going to say since the Earth cooled. But anyway, you've got Backhoe Bob out there who's constantly ripping up fiber optic cables and things like that. We saw that as an issue. We don't go that way. Our route into Dallas is an alternate route. We don't touch any of that stuff, so our outages are very, very minimal. So that was one way we took, but then we also did an alternate route which takes us to Oklahoma City. So if there is ever any cuts leaving our area, we've got other routes to go to carry it. We're in the process of adding 3 more. Those will be up here shortly, so we'll be running through Fort Worth as well. The other piece is even locally in town, we've got alternate routes. The only possibility of a cut of anything that would really, really affect you and impact you is if somebody hit something in the front lawn where we brought the fiber in. That's really the only.
What if the contractor who doing some work saws through a line?
They would have to do that right in your front lot.
Sometimes you'll do it right inside the building. That's not.
Yeah.
I have secondary inputs.
Yes, and we do have it with secondary.
It would be a challenge.
But yeah. So those are the big things on the network.
That's very good, and I mean, I understand. I was a longtime customer for 10 years of a VoIP system called Nextiva. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but I was used to using a screen to see what our calls were doing, the volume of calls coming in. You know, we were set up so that voicemail occurred and we were having to respond because we didn't have three women could not keep up with the calls, and so they had to come in, then the voicemails had to be returned, and so I was used to seeing, you know, who was on and who was off and how many a month and those kind of things, and so I'm used to a lot of these features that are, and this is no doubt even more improved than
And we can take it pretty granular through my call center on my team, my team that handles residential and my inbound business calls. We have I have it set up to actually see who's on the phone, how many calls are you taking, what's your drop rate, how many calls are we not taking. I've actually broken it down to what your revenue per call is if you're actually helping or hurting me, so I can monitor all of those things as far as what everybody's doing. How many calls do you take? Okay. Why are you taking 9? She's taking 14. What are we doing here? So I'm able to monitor the traffic and the workloads and see what's what. Also, like you'll appreciate too, we're bogging down over here. Well, I need to go ahead and forward this person over here as well, so I need them to back up and help out. So we can get these trees, we can get as nuclear as you want us to get.
Brendan,
Yes.
because I'm less familiar with it than these guys are. Because right now, we own and have paid off our phones.
That is correct.
So these charges, especially on the monthly level, this is all going to be brand new charges that right now we're not paying.
correct. The only thing on here that we're not seeing is the internet.
Which we already have.
Yeah,
That's,
It's part of our.
This just rides on top of what we already have. Yes, that would be new, but you wouldn't be buying a system, so you're exchanging this instead of outright buying a system. And as much as our other one cost, we would never reach equilibrium there.
Sure.
By the time this aged out and we replaced it, you would still be below what it would be if you bought a system.
Yeah, I guess, and I'm just asking the questions for information, because how long ago did we buy that phone system?
In 17,
In 17, what did we pay?
400,000.
And what's the life on that system? 10 years?
Well,
15 years?
our other one was well over 25 years old when we got out of it, and that was one of the reasons, very antiquated. It was what was that name brand that was very popular, big system back in the day? Y'all know it.
Nortel?
No, no, it was, what was the name on our phones? They were a common commercial phone, and they had just, that's how long we'd had them. And some of them we were being, I believe it was Wichita Telephone, or somebody was kind of our caretaker on that, and we would actually get since they weren't made anymore, we'd get a refurbished phone, and it was just very antiquated system, had no,
Was it Lucent?
computer. Do what?
Lucent
No,
or Avaya?
Avaya, wasn't that it?
$60,000 a year.
Could, maybe, I'll have to look and see, I don't think.
$600,000.
Well, that's the beauty of it though, is that we're looking at doing a 60-month deal. So the idea is to never be antiquated and out of date. At the end of the 60 months, we just say, yeah, you're right, that's the dinosaur now, let's get you to the new stuff, and we can modify whatever we need to. But the other thing is when you think about the equipment that you were buying, yes, it's gonna be more expensive over the long haul, but the equipment that you have now, when something went bad, you had to go ahead and buy it and replace it, and that was more out of pocket immediately. Where this is all, we handle it all. The only thing we're not gonna cover is if somebody just starts coming in with hammers and knocking them off walls and beating them to death. But anything that doesn't work on them or anything else, we come in, that includes our labor, that includes everything. A lot of the other phone systems, if there's an issue, they're not just coming out, they're coming out on top of the hourly rate and everything else along with it.
Now,
So that $400 equipment is actually about $1,000 once you start adding in the labor. So
And,
this
you know,
alleviates
the 400,000 covered the size of system that carried the LEC. What it didn't carry at the time we bought it was the LEC phones that had to go into place. So we actually purchased those. And Brendan, isn't this like a $300 or $350 phone to put in?
It was about $450 3 years ago when we bought them. I'm not sure what they are currently.
And so we had to install those. We didn't that wasn't in our $390,000 purchase, did not include at the time because it didn't exist, but we knew it was coming, the LEC, just the ability to handle the calls from the LEC, the size system, but not the equipment to furnish it. We bought that after the fact. So that was some more dollars.
Is the LEC included in this as well? I wasn't sure if they were on a separate.
No, it is included.
And then here again, the 3744 is just for the management and operation of the equipment. You still have your phone service, so the money, the equipment that you've already paid for that, you're also paying for phone service on top of that. This includes that as well. So this is all of your phone numbers and the system.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, the only difference we'd be paying for is the management, because we're paying monthly for the phone service as it is. So that wouldn't change.
What are we paying for that?
I don't have that.
Okay. Because that'll be a good piece of information.
Say that again?
We're already paying for phone service. We still have to pay for the service. We own the phones, but we're paying for
No.
the connection service.
No.
We don't get phones for free.
We pay zero for that, Brendan. We bought that outright.
I'm
All
talking
that
about,
we pay
no,
for to
I'm
make
talking
this-
about the phone numbers.
For the phone numbers and your phone service.
No, we don't pay a
Phone
penny
bill.
for that.
Yes, sir.
We,
We pay a
it's
phone
said and
bill.
done. We do not have a phone bill. Tell,
I mean, I would have to look, I'm not.
we had on the old antiquated phones, AT&T, how we ever even got started is Webfire came to us and said, if y'all haven't done an audit, you need to do an audit. And sure enough, our bill was about $13,000 a month with AT&T. That's what it was, and we had antiquated system. So he did a audit, found out that about $3,500 a month was going to lines that we hadn't operated in 10 years, and we were still paying AT&T for them. We took that out of the equation, pulled it down to $10,000 a month, and I'm saying, for $10,000 a month, we can do a lot. Well, Ripley says, yes, you can. You can own your own system and not have a phone bill. And so that's what we did. We applied the $10,000 known costs that we had and said, what can we do? So today, we don't pay a phone bill to Webfire. We just pay them for the internet service that runs the hybrid system that we've got today.
We pay for internet service, but we also pay Webfire for the phones. Not to own the equipment, but we pay for the lines and the fax lines that we have. That's still something we pay for. I don't know what that is because that goes through the auditors, but that is,
I'm
we
not
still
aware of
have a
that,
phone.
Brendan, at all, because I would say that
Yeah.
other than internet, that's all we pay. Now, we may pay them to troubleshoot for us.
Well, telephone's a regulated industry, so they can't, I don't know that they can actually turn out just give out free numbers. So there's an associated, somebody's paying it somewhere. I don't know if Webfire is just including it in their piece, but there is a.
What is our Webfire bill?
Every number.
Yes.
That would be a good piece of information.
Yeah, we do pay for it now. I don't know what that total is, but that's why we go through occasionally and audit who's using what numbers and which ones to cancel, because there's an associated cost with every number we have. So no matter which number we have, there's an associated cost to that line.
But Brendan, I'm not seeing a Webfire bill that we may go months without a Webfire bill.
No, we get billed every month. I get billed every month with Webfire, every month.
I'm just not seeing, I guess, yours. But that's the internet bill though, is it not?
Well, internet, and then there's also phones. I
Right.
don't pay the phone bill.
What you're seeing from Webfire right now is how much a month? Total cost that you're used to
I don't
seeing?
have that in front of me.
1,000
I
or?
don't know. I'd have to look. We're in the process of negotiating the internet as
Well,
it is.
would it be in our payables here? I'm just not seeing.
Corey's looking for it.
Our most recent, which is most likely the February invoice, was over
1,000?
Yes, 4,800 actually, and it's covering fiber optic service and several other accounts, but I'm not 100% sure. Not actually seeing the invoice, I'm seeing a copy of the check right
Yeah.
now. I would have to go find
The
it.
internet's not that much.
Research.
Yeah, I would like to know, sure, because I did not understand it to be that way.
Because for the purposes of us comparing apples to apples, that's certainly a piece of information.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know why I was thinking from a past meeting on the internet piece through Webfire, that cost had just decreased to about $750, so or somewhere around there, I think, but I don't remember.
The
where I
internet
saw it.
should be sub 1,000.
Yeah.
So the rest of that bill would be for phones.
Yeah.
Because the phones are going to be far more expensive than internet in most cases, especially POTS. The plain old telephone system, which is what POTS stands for, is still one of the more expensive things you can purchase. And it's going to be far more than the internet bill is.
Corey, I do know that Deborah insisted that Webfire we did not have a contract per se. We, under no agreement, but we do have a letter of understanding from them as to what this consisted of. She was adamant to get that, and I know Ashley got with Ripley and satisfied Deb on it, so I don't know where that's at, but I do remember that.
Yeah, I would not have been a part of that at all, so that would take quite a bit of research, and we would have to go back to our old system and see if we could find anything on that. We would have some invoices in here for prior, but.
They do, my office, and I certainly don't mind to ask and get Brendan, I can get us
Yeah, it's information we can get. I just, since the phones don't come to me, that's not something that I have on hand.
I have a 2-page called an agreement from March of 2016
What does it say?
that has, well, it just lists everything. And then the total bill was $389,350. And Jeff Gusson signed it.
But does it say anything about a reoccurring fee? Because my spreadsheets never took into account any reoccurring fees, and that's, I did it.
This is equipment. I'd have to find and see, because I just don't remember having a full agreement from the fire.
We're either paying a bill or we're not.
Yes.
We are
So-
definitely paying a bill.
Yeah.
And we can get that information. What I wanted this presentation to be is to let you guys see the options going forward, what it could be. And now that we have their cost, we can compare it to ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have a bill because we're not getting phone service for nothing. That's still extremely expensive,
Yeah.
especially with old copper.
Looking
And
at this-
one thing that this would do going forward is allow us to pull out the old copper system that's currently taking up a large amount of room in the server room. This would allow us to clean things up, make it better, and make it more redundant and give us better service
And keep
throughout
us
the
on that
courthouse.
copper, probably pay for this.
There you go.
At this rate, yes.
Go ahead, Corey.
Corey, were you gonna say something?
Our phone bill for, this is the most recent phone bill that we have, was $3,115.
Is that
To Webfire,
That's, yes, it's $2,869 in recurring charges and then some taxes and some usage fees.
see, I did not realize that, Brendan, at all.
Yeah, the plain old telephone's expensive.
Yeah.
It's old copper, because right now, every line, everybody, and the reason why you asked earlier why not everybody has a direct dial was to cut down on the number of lines we pay for. So people that were considered necessary to have direct dials have one. Everybody else comes into a group number, and we have enough of them to cover usually the amount of calls that come in, and that's why you direct them out, because outside lines are more expensive. So I remember long before me, Cody was letting me know that there was an audit done to cut down on the direct dial numbers to start saving some money, and they were able to trim it down. But that sounds about right for what we have. So in a sense, we would still be dropping it significantly.
There was an agreement signed in 2015 where the lesser is NEC Financial Phones, but the equipment supplier is Webfire, and they have a lease term of 2015, it looks like it. We only had it for 60 months.
And that was for the hardware. The lines would have been a separate.
And then one thing that Brendan was mentioning too is if you do need to add additional lines, we do 2 types of lines. We do enhanced and we do just standard. So if you needed to add an additional line, it's $2.50.
Because all that's doing is just essentially using more bandwidth.
It's just
creating a
it's a
specific
virtual thing.
It's not an actual infrastructure bill.
But are on this quote, so that I understand, are you treating every line as an outline?
No, we didn't set everything up that way.
How many outlines are there? Are they a mirror of what we have today?
It'll be adequate. I think what we did was didn't we bank this on about 300 just for a ballpark? Yeah, so we averaged it on about 300 users. So I think we had it set for like 75 simultaneous calls, I think is what we were looking at.
And I would recommend going that route. My personal recommendation, and professional one in this case, would be don't have any direct numbers. Nobody should have a direct number. Everybody should have an extension. And there's easier ways to reach it, but it's not, the best way to go about it is to have everyone has an extension. And you just assign extensions out. And if you want a couple of them, pick those. But the best way is usually to give everyone an extension.
Everybody will have a 4-digit extension,
But-
no doubt. But that's, and then to kind of circle back to what you were saying about lines out. Let's just say we start you guys off at 64 simultaneous calls. You could say, we don't like to say it like this, but you could say that is 64 lines out. It's really just like one line or whatever. But all right, so all of a sudden something happens. You guys need 60. You guys need to go 128 simultaneous calls. Let us know. We overnight will give you, or within like an hour, we can bump you up to 128 simultaneous calls. And it can go up to 1,000 simultaneous.
Yeah.
So if you got in an emergency situation and your call volume was going up, then that would be pretty flexible.
We could get, I say an hour. I think it'd probably take, honestly, it'd probably take about 10 minutes. And we could go from 64 simultaneous to 128 simultaneous.
When you say that everybody would have an extension,
Yes.
that wouldn't change from today though, would it? So if Nancy is extension 8299, she's going to remain 8299.
We would love to have a spreadsheet with all of that information so we don't have to recreate it. Yes, she's going to stay. We do not want to mess anything up.
So our numbers, as we know them today, stay the same.
That is
no
right.
change.
Yes.
They just migrate them.
Yeah, we'll port those over so that nothing's lost.
The correct answer in technical terms is heavens yes. Because I got over here. I don't want to redo everything.
Any other questions?
Well, this has been informative, guys. Thank you all a bunch.
Yeah, we want to thank you all for the time and letting us, you've been here for a while.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And then finally, we'll go circle back around to item number 1, which was to receive a presentation from Dr. Johnston, President of Vernon College, on the branch campus maintenance tax. Unfortunately, it couldn't be here this morning, so we'll just scrap that piece for today.